What's up, boys? Well, since I didn't stream today, I figured I'd sit out here, make a video, talk to y'all a little bit about Lost Ark, give my first impressions about it. It's been a week now that the game's been out. I think it's about time to make a video and just kind of talk about, good to bad and everything else in between. So anyway, Lost Ark obviously came to the West last week, today, last week. And it had been out in Korea for years. It had been out in Russia for, I think, also years. People have played it with VPN and just with different clients, etc. here in the US as well. And it was really, really hyped up. Obviously, that was exacerbated by the fact that Amazon had Twitch drops for it, which even further inflated the interest that people had for it, which especially was good for my channel and is good for my channel, as well as a number of other people's. But I think the main thing that I can say that I think most people agree with here is that Lost Ark had a huge splash. It was much bigger and it's held a lot more players than New World certainly has at this time. Like if you look at New World on release day and then New World a week after release day, those are two different numbers. With Lost Ark, that hasn't really been the case. It's retained a lot more of its player base, and that's despite number of server issues and people not being able to log in, people being stuck in queue, etc. So even with that many people not being able to play the game, you're still seeing Steam concurrent player counts in the millions. And not really millions, it's above 1 million, which is still insanely good. And I want to talk a little bit about kind of why I think that is, the reason why people like the game, and also just why I like the game. So the fact is that, and I want to make sure I get this out of the way right now, there's always going to be a conversation. This has been happening on my stream about about every 3 minutes or so for the whole stream. People bring up the fact that Lost Ark is pay to win. This is generally like my opinion on pay to win. I think that if you can ever spend real money and gain an advantage that makes your character more powerful at max level in any way, or to accelerate a farming of that advantage that makes it more powerful, it's pay to win. In that definition, Lost Ark is pay to win. I think it's pay to win. Is it still fun? Yeah, it's still fun, but it's also pay to win. And guess what? You know what else is pay to win in that circumstance? World of Warcraft. So I just want to get that out of the way. I don't really want to talk about that a whole lot, but I know it is a reason for a lot of trepidation. My best advice to anybody who's holding off because of that or doesn't want to play because of that, make your own best decision. You can play the game for free whenever you want. You can do that or not. It's kind of up to you. But anyway, the one thing I tell you not to do is don't fucking go beyond your finances spending money on a fucking video game. That's some bullshit. So anyway, the fact is that Lost Ark has been hyped up by a lot of people. I've seen videos about it for a long time. Obviously got announced it was coming to the West, published by Amazon over a year ago at this point, and everybody's been really excited about the game, and you can see that with the numbers, the player base, and I think also the game itself has been a breath of fresh air in many regards. I think that the just complete nonchalant nature of the game, it just completely going against a number of the Western mores and social rules and just doing whatever the fuck it wants, Every female has high heels? Of course they do, duh. Everyone has huge ass titties? Of course they do, duh. Like, that's just the way the game is. And I think that's a breath of fresh air for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. But again, that's not really a big reason why you play a video game. There's plenty of, bullshit fucking sex simulator games on Steam that nobody plays. So why are people really playing Lost Ark? I think the reason why is because people always are looking for the new MMO. They're always looking for the next big thing. They're looking for that next game that they're going to invest 1,000 or 10,000 hours in, depending on their employment. And the fact is that I'm that same person, right? I'm looking for that next adventure. I'm looking for the new frontier. And I think Lost Ark's in a very particular position because it's a known entity, but at the same time, it's not. Because a lot of people can't really play Lost Ark here in America, but for years we've probably heard at this point that Lost Ark is this incredible game. The developers, Smilegate, have an amazing relationship with their player base over there in Korea, and it's generally well liked and it's well received, and beyond all of that, it's growing. And if you contrast that with games like World of Warcraft or New World, which was also published by Amazon, developed by them as well, you can see a very, very stark contrast. And I think that promise of success and that proven success metric is one of the big reasons why people looked at Lost Ark and thought to themselves, this could actually be a legitimate thing. Because the reason why, and I'll talk about this just for a minute here, is the reason why people care about having an MMO that has a lot of players on it is really simple. Why would you want to farm mounts on a server that nobody else was on in World of Warcraft or any game, right? There are people that care about single-player achievements, but I think that if you look at human psychology, and every regard in life, you can have gold stars, you have expensive sports cars, you have different preferential things at work that are pretty much cosmetic. People love cosmetics, and the reason why they love cosmetics is they get to show them off. And it's one of the main compelling things in life, is to have something that you've earned that you can show off, that is able to show off that you've earned it. So I think that that's why people want to play an MMO that a lot of people are also playing, is so they can show that stuff off to other people. And also, like, you feel like you're part of something that's like happening. You feel like you're part of something that's happening now, not happened before, not as, you know, like beginning to stop happening, like New World or something like that. You feel like you're on the up and up, and it feels like, you know, things are moving forward and it's a positive thing. So I think that's a big reason why you see so many people that are fixated on the player numbers, and it's not necessarily the number itself. I think it's where the number is going. So, like, for example, if New World had 400,000 concurrent players right now, well, I would consider New World a massive success. Honestly, I really would, especially with it being just a buy-to-play game with no other real microtransactions besides cosmetics. That's a huge success. But the fact is that it's going down, and that's why people, even in the first week of New World, whenever it had, for all intents and purposes, very healthy player numbers, were still worried. And even in the first month, whenever it maintained those healthy player numbers to an extent, they were worried because it was going down. And I think that people see Lost Ark and they see the success it's had in other regions, and they see it going up, and that gives them a certain amount of security whenever they feel like they want to emotionally and mentally invest themselves into a game, because that's one of the big factors that MMOs have, is that there's a lot of emotional investment, there's a lot of time investment into them, and people basically, I mean, they don't want to build a castle on sand. You don't want to play a game that everybody ends up quitting in a month, and you know, you've invested all this time into it and now nobody cares what you've accomplished. I think that would make sense in many regards. So the fact is that Lost Ark has that, I think, is the biggest promise of Lost Ark in general. I just want to kind of let people understand that. And now I want to talk about like the actual individual functions of the game. And I want to preface this by saying I haven't really done any PvP at all, so I can't speak on that. I've heard positive things, but I'll have to experience it myself to really have an actual opinion on it. But other than that, I've leveled through the story. I went through it, you know, pretty slowly, read all the quests, watched all the cinematics, did all the stuff, collected all the Mokoko seeds, and, you know, got the little mounts and did like the completionism stuff in each zone, you know, the typical Asmongold waste your time bullshit. I did all of that, and I have been doing that, and I'm going to, as soon as I finish this video, continue doing that. So, what did I think about different factors? I think that the character creation is good, it's passable. Is it BDO? No, it's not BDO, but does everything have to be BDO? I would say probably not. I think character creation is more than sufficient, it's totally fine. And also, you know, you have like different like outfits you can put your character on. I'd say it's like about as good as Final Fantasy 14, so you could say, somewhere around there. Definitely better than WoW's, like 100%. But, you know, it is that one step above that. Definitely better than New Worlds, of course, like 200% there. So, anyway, I think the main thing that people really enjoy about Lost Ark is the combat. The combat is the main factor that I think attracts a lot of people. And not only is it the factor that attracts a lot of people, but it's also the factor that keeps them playing. The way that Lost Ark feels to me is basically like Diablo if Diablo was an MMO. And the reason why I'm using Diablo and not Path of Exile is that, number one, Path of Exile is so diverse that, you know, somebody playing a Righteous Fire Inquisitor is just going to play a completely different, you know, way than somebody playing a, you know, like a Deadeye or something like that, or whatever it is, an Archer, basically, any bow class. So what I'm really trying to say here is that the experience that you have is to some degree formulaic, and because it's formulaic, it's better balanced, which has its positives and it has its negatives. There are a lot of ways you can customize your character, a lot of little tiny things like having special cards that give you bonuses, etc. And there are a lot of just little things that you can do to make your character more powerful, but in terms of like truly changing the dynamic in which your character plays, you don't have a whole lot of resources as compared to a game like Path of Exile. But compared to a game like Diablo 3, I would say you probably have as much or more. I would probably say more. So because of that, I think that the game offers really, really strong like core gameplay. And you immediately go into the game. It's not like you're using one ability for the first 3 hours. You immediately start getting different abilities, and the game ramp up is very, very fast, which means that you don't start with, as I said, like 2 abilities for the first 10 hours. You get a number of different abilities. You're learning how these abilities combo together. You're, being put into dungeons. There are solo dungeons, and in my opinion, I think the solo dungeons while leveling, that is the best part of leveling. And I just in general think the combat is probably the biggest strength of Lost Ark.